one institution isn't going to do this. So let's talk actually about, just for a minute about other universities. I'm sure you're talking to your compatriots at other universities. How much cross-learning is there? How much? I mean, I'm sure there is some level of effort across lots of universities. But it's what I'd love to understand is, have universities as a community gotten on board with this, or is it more spotty than that?
I mean, we're part of not only organizations in higher ed in the United States, but also internationally. And so, I think that this is internationally, happening in higher education, certainly. There's been a fair bit of knowledge transfer, definitely sharing best practices, and I think leveraging each other and our goals and commitments and even successes to do better and to go farther faster. So I think that's definitely happened. Again, internationally, it's really interesting. Once a year, we all get together, about 200 international institutions. And it's really interesting to see what the Europeans are doing, seeing what the Asian institutions are doing, and also for us to share our models and our frameworks. So I think definitely, we also, more close to home, have an Ivy Plus Sustainability Consortium. And that one in particular has actually recently done some research benchmarking across our institutions to look at how are we all doing on our carbon footprints and who's doing what. And that data analysis has led us to, go to the top folks in whatever category it is and say, well, what are you doing? Are we doing all of those things? And how do we leverage each other to do more that we couldn't sort of do in our own institutions?
No, I like that. And so students who take this course a lot of them are at universities. They're all over the world. One of the things I've really found inspiring about the Office for Sustainability is, you started with this earlier, the idea that we're not just sort of talking the talk about climate change and its impact on health and sounding the alarm, but we're actually trying to do something real and meaningful and sustainable within our own institution. So if you're a student sitting out there, let's say you're in India, you're watching this, and you think, I'm not sure my university is involved in this. What do they do? What advice would you give them if they called you up right now and said, Heather, I want to do this. I want to start a movement in my own university. How do they begin?
Well, I'd say, first of all, they can do it. The power rests in these students and their creative ideas. But I think, if our institution is one example, it really started with the students and then got some support, I think, first from key faculty and operational leaders saying, well, we can do these things. I think that to be really successful as quickly as possible, there is no substitute for really strong leadership at the top. It just creates that immediate alignment for people. And then I think set bold goals, clear goals that you can achieve, and then you're going to have to bring your community together and really listen. And to all the experts in their areas, figure out what they think the barriers or challenges are to your goals and commitments, and then start to solve them together.
So if you're sitting in India and your institutional leader says, look, this is really important, we're not very wealthy. Harvard has so much money, and how can a public university in Delhi possibly do this? What would you say to that?
So I'd say two things. First is our initial climate goal that we hit 30% absolute reduction in emissions in 10 years' time was done in a completely economically viable way. All of the projects that were done on average had incredible paybacks, under 5 years. So these, yes, there may be, you have to look at ROI differently, right? A little bit in the sense of, yes, you're going to have to spend some capital, but you're going to get it back in exponentially.
In short time period.
In short periods of time. So there is an initial investment that you need to make. Now that may come through, for instance, we have a $12 million green revolving fund. Could you get foundations or the government or somebody to give you some seed funding that would tide you over till you see those savings? That might be something you could identify. And then secondly, I'd say the work that we're doing also in health in the built environment, and in particular our Healthier Materials Academy, that's a partnership with our office and the Center for Health and Global Environment. We're working with vendors and manufacturers to say, we want to source products that we buy in our spaces, carpet, furniture, paint, and get these toxic chemicals out. Can you partner with us? We don't want to pay anymore,
Yep.
and we want them to come on time and on schedule like normal.
Yep.
We've been able to do that in multiple categories
Yep.
just by working with the manufacturers.
Yeah.
So I think that a lot of these things can take some time and effort to figure out how to do, but the actual, we saved money on the energy. In some cases, we're even saving money on the material stuff, or we're certainly not paying more.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of this actually can be done in an inexpensive way. And that's actually why at Harvard, we in particular took that first climate goal that way also, is it is replicable.
Yeah.
Other people can do the same.
Yeah. And the data that we've seen from Joe Allen and his work on buildings, I tell you, the idea that we spend, of course it's obvious when you hear it, we spend 90% of our time indoors.
Yeah.
And that has, and clean buildings have this huge effect on cognition and productivity. Yeah. So there are these paybacks in all sorts of other ways that we don't easily measure, but are really important.